maybe something I can share before. I would like to ask your comments about your experiences about that session to make it like a dialogue rather than a monologue. But I will start with a little monologue. So yesterday I was speaking about natural state and the importance of tuning into Mahasiddha Guru, which is the bedrock of all tantric methods. I would even go as far to say that it's the bedrock of all spiritual methods. But it's a different discussion than that I've spoken a lot, but it's a different discussion, why practices work and why they don't work. So I'm not gonna go there. Don't worry. So tantric method. I'm really eager to hear your comments today and as the days go on this retreat after these dancing sessions. I'm eager to hear about your experiences. So what we did in the beginning was that we asked the blessings of our Mahasiddha gurus and then did some short deity practice and then started dancing. And it just, as we were at some point of the session, it just occurred to me that, tantric practice is actually extremely simple. Tantric practice always means mantras learned or received through empowerment. And you've all received Rainbow Body Yoga empowerment. And then we have the mantras for the deities. So, as you know well from your own experience, we are kind of closed inside a bubble where we have all these self-based, self-centered thinking, ideas, habits, and all these ideas and habits and opinions, they kind of magnetize, they touch this how should I say, like a crystallized, hardened, energetic knot behind the eyes, the eye location, the me location. So, and this is how the whole selfing mechanism becomes magnetized and comes into existence. That's the belief, how it is born and how it accumulates and how it messes up our lives, isn't it? So tantric practice is actually really, really simple. First you need a Mahasiddha who is willing to pass on the I kind of got caught up in thinking of passing on what? Passing on authentic life experience, passing on life, passing on life itself, isn't it? So you have to have a Mahasiddha who's willing to do that. And from that willingness, from that natural compassion, bodhicitta that the Mahasiddha has, then it doesn't really matter what the empowerment is. In the history there are all these stories and accounts of, in ancient India, there has been some guy sitting on the porch of his little house, kind of idly, not doing much, maybe smoking a cigarette because he has nothing to do. And then all of a sudden this dude with dreadlocks, perhaps completely naked, comes walking out of the jungle, comes and looks at the guy like he's some kind of an ascetic who comes out of the jungle, right? And comes to the guy who's hanging out on the porch of his house, just goes next to the guy and gives a slap. And then the ascetic goes and disappears back into the jungle. But then, there are historical stories like this, that something like that might happen, something like what the hell, like strange. But then the life of the fellow who was sitting there on the porch begins to change. Because he, or if it's a lady, she just doesn't see things the same way as he or she did before. So then it starts making sense that the person starts realizing that, oh, that might not have been some crazy person who came to slap me, who gave the empowerment, but it must have been some kind of a yogi or a master or a Mahasiddha. So there are stories like this, and then of course, well, I don't slap, well, I haven't slapped anybody so far, but, we also have empowerments, So my point is that there needs to be like a connection, contact with a Mahasiddha. It can be few seconds long. It can be thousands of hours of Guru Yoga. But nevertheless, the contact and connection needs to be there. I was just last week remembering the only alive Buddhist Mahasiddha I met back in the day in Japan. He was an elder Zen master, Tangen Roshi, known by the nickname the Old Buddha. He was 84 or 85 when I met him. And, I met Amma, who I also consider to be a Mahasiddha, but she's a Hindu. But Tangen Roshi is the only Buddhist Mahasiddha I've met in person, in the physical. And I can remember to this day the atmosphere in his little temple, how it felt to be in his presence, what was the energy surrounding him. I remember all of it. That's the impact of meeting a Mahasiddha. So, of course it makes things much quicker when we have an overview of the whole practice, when we have understanding of what the path includes and what are the successful signposts along the way towards Buddhahood. It is definitely helpful to understand all that, to know all that, to have those pieces of information that then, when we have that information, that theory, that view, then when we start having the experiences, you start connecting that, oh, okay, this is that is that. Now it starts making sense and the whole picture starts getting clearer little by little. So I was talking about the self-based habitual mind, where we have thoughts, memories, we have all kinds of mental and emotional stress and conflicts, kind of like little fights, little wars, if you will, if you like, happening within our minds and emotions. Like we cannot, samsaric beings can't escape it. It's like that. And if it's not that obvious, like something really kind of a gross type of self-based reacting that takes place, then it might be subtler type of distortion where you have murkiness, drowsiness, fogginess, just the general feeling that something isn't really right, that there's something extra giving artificial flavor to our experience of being and living. So with Tantra, as I'm explaining what I just had this small little, it's not a new discovery at all, but kind of just had the idea that Tantra is really simple. So you have Guru, you have empowerment, then you have mantra. So you have Guru, empowerment, practice. And the practice is that when we have this canvas, aura, our energy field, energy system inside the physical body and outside the physical body. In short, we have this aura. The tantric practice, all it is to replace, or not replace, place the mantras into that canvas. And when we keep doing it, when we do it for a moment, you already know how it feels like. It reveals our sort of like a different realm that is sober, clear, grounded, kind, selfless. And then we just keep doing it. But it's really that simple that it's kind of like, well, I don't want to judge, but there is, in modern classical music, there is, I'm sure you've heard it, there is this kind of music that is completely chaotic. Modern classical music, there is this type of compositions that sounds like, you know, it doesn't make sense to me personally that somebody would, you know, study composition for 20, 30 years and then produce that kind of music. It sounds that nuts to me, right? But it's kind of that kind of music, that's crazy, random sounds and just chaotic noise. It's a perfect analogy for samsaric mind in its worst condition. It's like, you know, conflict, dissonance, no release from tension and anxiousness. So that's the samsaric mind. And then with Tantra, you replace, you make that music beautiful, melodious, harmonious. You fix the music, in a sense, right? And that's all Tantra is. That's all Tantra is. Putting the instruments in tune and then playing with tunes that are, with instruments that are in tune rather than instruments that are not in tune. It's like that. So I had this little analogy. How was the dancing? Please share your experiences. Please, anybody.
Really joyful.
Mm-hmm.
That was the overwhelming feeling that I got, really light and joyful. And I hadn't danced like that for probably years. So, yeah, lovely. And
Isn't
quite
it?
surprising how the effect of that.
Yeah, yeah. Really wonderful. Others?
Yeah, what Gwen said could have been my experience, because it was surprisingly joyful. And usually I can't even stand on my own feet. And I mixed up modern stuff from Robin Williams, dancing like a Russian, with the very, very old stuff from Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Right.
And I could dance for almost 20 minutes, and that was just pure joy for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Someone else?
Yeah, I'd say joy and liberation, Kim. Very conscious about how self-conscious I have been in life about what other people think I do. And then this came up then of actually dancing with my younger self. And it was absolutely, it was liberating, it was beautiful. And there was an uneasy, in the entry into that, there was an uneasy entrance into it, in that I felt that the little fellow was actually at various stages, you know, into teens and early 20s, very self-conscious, but the two just actually blended in together. And then just hugging myself was really, really liberating. Yeah.
What kind of music did you listen to, Joe?
I started with classical, with Strauss music and waltzes, then going into Hank Williams Sr., country and western.
Wow.
You know, yeah. It was really, it was good. You know, yeah.
Great. Someone else, please.
It's fun, really fun, but as Joe said, I see how self-conscious I am. Like, I struggle to completely let go, but then there are moments where you kind of let go. You see yourself. I saw myself, how silly I felt, and it's kind of fine because there is this. Yeah, but it was good. It was fun, really fun.
But that's a really important discovery to, realize that, you're dancing there, kind of self-conscious, and then in the next moment you kind of just, that releases and you just open up and start moving in a completely different way. It kind of literally like a different realm opens up. And this realm is the natural state, right? So that's a very important experience to have, to notice the shift between the modes. Yeah.
I think that's something I've been thinking a lot about, like in life in general, to kind of have that letting go thing happening. I think dancing is a good example, and you can do it on your own, but in relation to other people, it's there all the time, that kind of defense or fear thing, and then sometimes you snap out of it and you have that spontaneity or selflessness. But yeah, I will keep doing this. It's like, it's both really, really fun and good for me, I think.
Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah, I feel a lot of joy too. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And when I start to dance and I'm thinking, and then I feel how small I am and when I'm in my body, as you describe it, then you dance like this.
Yeah.
And yourself, you become wider and bigger, and it's not proud. It's your take your room, your space, and that's great.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful to hear that. Yesterday I had the idea that I was first thinking that should we do like prostrations, because we often on retreats we do prostrations with mantras and then do some yoga postures after prostrations. But then I felt that I don't think there would be any problem with the camera and setting up the camera so that you could see how to do the prostration and yoga postures if you haven't done it the way I do it before. But then I felt like, no, it needs to be something, I wanted I wanted something simpler and kind of, in a sense, also perhaps a bit more challenging, because you don't get anywhere with this kind of dancing in the basic recognition if you are stuck with the small self. So it's kind of a challenge, and in that sense it's kind of difficult, but that's exactly why I chose to have these dancing sessions instead of yoga postures and prostrations, because when you get it, it's kind of like you see something and then you can't unsee it anymore, right? So so did you have good experience? Okay. Did somebody have Max was saying that he was they were listening to some electronic music, and he was having like a tears flowing. Did somebody experience something challenging, like having a emotional note, some negativity, something like this? Please tell me if you did. No one did. Okay. Oh, Helena, please.
It wasn't actually a knot, but there was it kind of started out quite nicely and smoothly and like on its own. What Joe said about hugging oneself, it kind of ended like that, and then there was this kind of some thin, like a sadness. I mean, it wasn't a knot, but some kind of like a tone of sadness that was there, but it yeah, nothing dramatic in that sense, but yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to ask this is because well, it really doesn't even need to be in the context of yogic tantric practice like we do here, because this happens every weekend in probably most bars where there is a dance floor, that there's somebody crying there, somebody having like a something releases, so people go into these emotional states, and so this also happens like in Roshen, definitely can happen here when we dance on the retreat, that light of awareness hits some pocket where there is some unreleased pain, and you might feel like some strong emotion, anxiety, fear, disgust, like nausea. You might cry, you might feel like going into rage. This can happen, and it is allowed to happen. So good that everybody had a joyful experience today, but tomorrow can be different. So whatever happens, it's perfectly fine. Just be aware of it. Always being aware of it. So we haven't left Vipassana practice, clear seeing practice, somewhere and then we dance. No, we bring that with us. But as long as there is nothing and we can just no problem, just enjoy it. Okay? Emil, please.
Yeah, I wanna share my experience. I was listening to a favorite one of mine, R. Kelly.
Okay.
Interesting because R. Kelly is really a pig in many ways. He's been convicted of, I think, human trafficking and sexual harassments and whatnot. And I was, I felt a sense of ease despite kind of listening to that kind of guy, and I got conscious of myself, of my kind of fixation to be a good guy and do the right kind of thing.
Yes.
And this kind of narrow, kind of choking self-understanding.
Yes.
And the shame or anxiety of being an asshole, really. I felt like in this way of dancing, I felt that the kind of awareness was self-moving, self-expressing, and sort of beyond this need to be a good guy. And that was a relief for me. So that was my experience.
That's wonderful. That's the release of control. What happened? Yeah, I can relate to that very well.
I'm not saying it's gonna last, but it was then and there, you know.
Yeah.
A little break from it.
Yeah, exactly. Little breaks become longer breaks, and then it becomes lasting. The control drops off. And what is actually, you mentioned R. Kelly, who's been in the headlines for, I don't know, a few years now, that, you know, in all yogic, contemplative, meditative teachings, traditionally, there are emphasis on ethics, morality. Don't be an asshole. Don't abuse people. Don't manipulate others. Ethics. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't be an asshole. And in my experience, and sometimes I've led workshopping on this, is that to me it seems that often when ethics are taught in yogic context, it's kind of, you know, you keep the ethics with you, kind of like have this bottle with you all the time, so that it guards us, kind of protects us from doing stupid stuff, from doing mistakes that would have serious consequences. So, you know, ethics, as far as I've seen and taught, are kind of taught like this, that it's something that you take when you start spiritual practice, and then you keep it with you like an object. But usually the explanations kind of end there. My experience is that the basic state, and there's actually plenty of support for this from different Vajrayana masters, saying that the basic state itself is loaded with goodness. And somebody who has fully realized the state, has had this realization where no shadow of the small self exists anymore, you know, it is made clear by Vajrayana masters that such a person cannot say evil things or do bad things, break ethics and morals like samsaric beings can. So in my experience, it is the case that, and this is actually interesting, we can say to ourselves, let's think of honesty. That's really important ethical guideline. You know, if I say to myself that as a samsaric being, as a practitioner, that I will remain honest, I have that, what is it called, like an affirmation, I make such a statement within myself, okay, I remain honest. I'll remain honest. When we do such an affirmation, it actually reveals the basic state. Do you follow me? So this is how I've used like non-harming or non-violence and honesty, those two ethical guidelines, pointers in my practice for years. And it does, in my experience, reveal our basic state, which explains that it's the basic state itself that has perfect ethics. And this is supported by probably all writings of Vajrayana masters, because they say that the basic state itself, it's another name, a tantric name for it is Kuntu Zangpo, which means all Kuntu, basic goodness. Basic goodness. So in that there is no trace of badness or being a dick, being an asshole. So despite of R. Kelly being a wonderful singer, I think in terms of recognition of the basic state, he has a far, 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 far way to go. Interesting choice of music. Okay, let's continue practice. Thank you for your comments. Let's relax for a moment. And I was planning to do some deity practice, but let's first relax. We practiced letting go in dancing form. Now relax, let go in sitting form. Still, together with all sentient beings, practicing, doing our practice to become Buddhas, to finish our purification process for the sake of helping others, becoming example of the so-called full enlightenment, complete clarity without shadows, becoming an embodiment of this basic goodness. World needs examples in everything, also in Dharma. If you feel like taking a few deep breaths, please do. Just let the physical tissues melt. Letting tensions melt. So relaxation is very, very useful up to certain stage of advancement in practice. You know, as you release tensions, it's kind of like removing dirt from the windshield of a car. So it's easier to drive. So relaxation is a bit like that. But at some point, it ceases to matter whether you are relaxed or if there are some tensions, or whether you are still, or if you do some very dynamic physical activity. At some point, the recognition of the basic state becomes normal. And that's the real, only normal. All the selfing, habits, self-based baggage is just something that has kind of like old storage room where you throw stuff over the years. Self-based habits, the whole self, me, I, is exactly like that. Old, broken stuff accumulated in the storage room for years and years on end. So that's something that on meillä lainassa, we just momentarily possess, but isn't really ours. It's the basic state that is the real, who we really are. So I already said a little expression of motivation, bodhicitta prayer, that we practice to attain Buddhahood, not more, not less, not something else, but Buddhahood for the sake of all beings. May all Buddhas and Mahasiddhas in all realms at this very moment shower blessings on us and shower their blessings on all beings. All human beings, animals, all life, in all forms, in all realms. Namo Sarva Buddhaye. Greetings, devotion to all Buddhas. Then let's continue with Vajrasattva practice. Vajrasattva is the masculine deity of emptiness. So Vajrasattva, meaning like a diamond purity, diamond-like indestructible purity, is the deity of the 11th Bhumi. A deity of diamond-like transparency that cannot be destroyed. So visualize your body and aura completely transparent. Just suddenly, the place of your body, in the place of your aura. Perfect jewel. Make sure you have all areas inside the body covered, all cavities of the body. Cavity inside the chest, neck, throat, head, all surfaces. Cavity inside the lower belly, back, genital area, pelvic floor, thighs, hips, knees, lower legs. Cavities inside shoulder, upper arms, elbows, lower arms, wrists, fingers, all completely transparent. In your place, in your mind, visualized, sits a transparent version of yourself. This is already Vajrasattva practice. Then feel into the aura. Feel the edges of your aura. Try to get a sense where they are. And then simply imagine a big, clear jewel. And you can place the edge of the jewel a little beyond the edge of your aura, where you perceive it to be. So make the jewel a little bigger to make sure that you cover everything. Keep seeing it, scanning the aura as if, the aura is kind of like a container. And with your mind, you can scan or fly through the aura. Scan through the aura, touch the outer edge of the aura. Bring your attention back into the body, to the heart, to the head, to the arms, legs, and then back out in the aura around the legs, around feet, extending 1.5 meters below the body. About 1.5 meters all around the body. And above the body, just fly around that diamond clear space. Then let's cover the central pillar. So you know that the Mahasiddha Bhumi centers are 5-6 meters below the body. So let's give a bit attention to the pillar between the pelvic floor and then the Bhumi is 5-6 meters away. So think of that distance and imagine there like a big tube, sort of like a plumbing tube, like this big plumbing tube. That is, you can think that it's perhaps at least 1/2 meter wide, or maybe perhaps 1 meter wide. This big tube going down that is completely transparent. Kind of like in Northern Europe, we have, in the winter, we have, do you call it icicles? When there is frozen ice hanging from the roof of the roof of a building. Kind of a big, transparent, huge transparent icicle below your body that extends all the way to the Mahasiddha Bhumis, 5-6 meters below. I have given you the image, so just let it happen. Let the experience, the felt sensation of that visualized image come to you. Don't chase it. Don't try to make it perfect. So there is this big tube going from your pelvic floor, lower body, 5-6 meters down, and you scan slowly up and down that tube. Or you can see that tube at once and kind of just see this huge, big, long tube made of perfect jewel. For the sake of all beings. Spending a moment with the pillar below. You can also see how the pillar below, how it connects with the aura, with the aura jewel, body jewel. It's all one big connected plate. Good. Then let's do the same thing above. Think of this 1/2 meter, 1 meter wide tube from the head, kind of like in ancient temples you have these huge pillars of marble, made of marble, but this is made of diamond. So all the way up to 11, 12, 13, completely transparent, lucid, clear, flawless. Scanning through it, feeling through it, seeing it all at once, however it comes to you. Also seeing the pillar together with the body and aura jewel. for the sake of all beings. Practicing out of love. Namo Vajrasattvaye. Namo Vajrasattvaye. Namo Vajrasattvaye. Primordial purity. Original purity. Original clarity. When you come to a point when the doing of the visualization kind of just drops away, and your whole energy system gets covered, kind of like absorbed, filled with the clarity and presence of Vajrasattva, then just enjoy that. Just enjoy it. Then you don't need to visualize, do anything anymore. Good. Before lying down, let's chant Vajrasattva Mantra 8 times. Namo Vajrasattva Ye. That 8 times. Inhale. Namo Vajrasattva Ye. 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 See how the chanting, because of bone vibration, makes the whole thing integrated, physical, energetic. The body is integrated much better. We didn't need the tantric charge of Vajrasattva anymore, but this bone vibration makes a big difference. That's why we did it. Alright, please lie down for rest, stay with the charge, stay with the energy for about 15 minutes. I'll let you know.